Hi everybody, welcome back to First Chapter Friday. This month we are going old school again with Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. And I picked this one because I think this is a book that most kids need to read just because it's so adorable, it's so sweet, it makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it's a good book. So we're going to jump right in, I guess. Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Okay, Chapter 1, it's called Before Breakfast. "Where's Papa going with that axe?" said Fern to her mother as they were setting table for breakfast. "Out to the hog house," replied Mrs. Arable. "Some pigs were born last night." "Well, I don't see why he needs an axe," continued Fern, who was only 8. "Well," said her mother, "one of the pigs is a runt. It's very small and weak, and it'll never amount to anything. So your father has decided to do away with it." "Do away with it?" shrieked Fern. "You mean kill it? Just because it's smaller than the others?" Mrs. Arable put her pitcher of cream on the table. "Don't yell, Fern," she replied. "Your father is right. The pig would probably just die anyway." Fern pushed her chair out of the way and ran outdoors. The grass was wet and the earth smelled of springtime. Fern's sneakers were sopping by the time she caught up with her father. "Please don't kill it," she sobbed. "It's unfair." Mr. Arable stopped walking. "Fern," he said gently, "you will have to learn to control yourself." "Control myself?" yelled Fern. "This is a matter of life and death, and you talk about controlling myself?" Tears ran down her cheeks as she took hold of the axe and tried to pull it out of her father's hand. Look at the picture there. I love that picture. I think I would have been like Fern when I was her age. "Fern," said Mr. Arable, "I know more about raising little pigs than you do. A weakling means trouble. Now run along." "But it's unfair," cried Fern. "The pig couldn't help being born small, could it? If I was very small at birth, would you have killed me?" Mr. Arable smiled. "Certainly not," he said, looking down at his daughter with love. "But this is different. A little girl is one thing, a little runty pig is another." "I see no difference," replied Fern, still hanging on to the axe. "It's the most terrible case of injustice I've ever heard of." A queer look came over John Arable's face. He seemed almost ready to cry himself. "All right," he said. "You go back to the house, and I will bring the runt when I come in. I'll let you start it on a bottle, just like a baby. Then you'll see what trouble a pig can be." When Mr. Arable returned to the house half an hour later, he carried a carton under his arm. Fern was upstairs changing her sneakers. The kitchen table was set for breakfast, and the room smelled of coffee, bacon, damp plaster, and wood smoke from the stove. "Put it on her chair," said Mrs. Arable. Mr. Arable set the carton down at Fern's place. Then he walked to the sink and washed his hands and dried them on the roller towel. Fern came slowly down the stairs. Her eyes were red from crying. As she approached her chair, the carton wobbled, and there was a scratching noise. Fern looked at her father. Then she lifted the lid of the carton. There inside, looking up at her, was the newborn pig. It was a white one. The morning light shone through its ears, turning them pink. "He's yours," said Mr. Arable, "saved from an untimely death, and may the good Lord forgive me for this foolishness." Fern couldn't take her eyes off the tiny pig. "Oh," she whispered, "oh, look at him. He's absolutely perfect." She closed the carton carefully. First, she kissed her father, and then she kissed her mother. Then she opened the lid again, and she lifted the pig out and held it against her cheek. At this moment, her brother Avery came into the room. Avery was 10. He was heavily armed, an air rifle in one hand and a wooden dagger in the other. And there's an illustration for you as well. That's Avery. Okay, where were we? Oh, what's that? He demanded. What's Fern got? She got a guest for breakfast, said Mrs. Arable. Wash your hands and face, Avery. Let's see it, said Avery, setting his gun down. You call that miserable little thing a pig? That's a fine specimen of a pig. It's no bigger than a white rat. Wash up and eat your breakfast, Avery, said his mother. The school bus will be along in a half an hour. Can I have a pig too, Pop? Asked Avery. No, I only distribute pigs to early risers, said Mr. Arable. Fern was up at daylight trying to rid the world of injustice. As a result, she now has a pig. A small one, to be sure, but nevertheless, it's a pig. It just shows what can happen if a person gets out of bed promptly. Let's eat. But Fern couldn't eat until her pig had a drink of milk. Mrs. Arable found a baby's nursing bottle and a rubber nipple. She poured warm milk into the bottle and fitted the nipple over the top and handed it to Fern. Give him some breakfast. And look how cute the little piggy is, sitting in her lap, drinking like a little baby. A minute later, Fern was seated on the floor in the corner of the kitchen with her infant between her knees, teaching it to suck from a bottle. The pig, although tiny, had a good appetite, and he caught on quickly. The school bus honked from the road. Run, commanded Mrs. Arable, taking the pig from Fern and slipping a donut into her hand. Avery grabbed his gun and another donut. The children ran out to the road and climbed into the bus. Fern took no notice of the others in the bus. She just sat and stared out the window, thinking what a blissful world it was, and how lucky she was to have entire charge of a pig. By the time the bus reached school, Fern had named her pet, selecting the most beautiful name that she could think of. Its name is Wilbur, she whispered to herself. She was still thinking about the pig when the teacher said, Fern, what is the capital of Pennsylvania? Wilbur, replied Fern dreamily. The pupils giggled, and then Fern blushed. And that is the end of chapter 1 of Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. I highly recommend this book. Again, it will make you run through the whole gamut of emotions, and it's a wonderful story. Okay, this one is available in print form, and it's also available through our through our app Libby as an ebook and an e-audiobook. All right, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.